Yes.
Bill Roberts is not able to get on, so I just resent an email he sent to me. If you could just resend his Zoom invite.
I'll resend it. If he logs in also as an attendee using the public one, I can admit him that way. But let me just try to resend his invite now. I've just resent it. broberts.tampa@gmail.com if that's what you have. It's like Bill's getting online. His camera came up. Hey, Bill's there. He's muted. Bill, you're on.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Excellent. Very good.
I don't know how I lost the link for this meeting. I had the link for the board meeting, but thanks for saying it.
It's easy enough to get confused. Just so everybody knows, our general policy is we try to send the links out exactly 1 week prior to the meeting to try to put some order to it. So you have it in plenty of time. If I certainly get notice, if you don't have it, you can't find it that morning or something, and you email me, Chris Jadek, it's simple enough for me to go in and resend it. Obviously, if I have a wrong email address for some reason, you wouldn't get it. But if the email address is correct, and it'll just resend the exact same link. So we can do that when needed.
Good. Well, this was my fault. I thought I had the link because I got the one for the 21st.
Yeah.
Not the one for today. So
we all have a lot of these meetings these days. It's easy to get confused.
Yeah. I stay confused. Any last minute tips?
Not for me. We'll follow your lead.
Oh, that's scary.
You're on your own, Bill.
We have your back, Bill.
There you go.
I'm glad.
There's one.
Spirit.
I'm glad.
Hey, you never gave me any slack. Why should you give Bill any slack?
Oh, here it comes.
We like Bill. No, I'm kidding. And that works for the both of you.
Well, Karen, that worked both ways.
I was going to say, which one?
I'll pass.
Boy, I like your office there, Bill. You got it. It's so neat.
Well, it's only neat because it's the result of having had a water flood in this office. And I had to redo all the flooring.
Oh my gosh.
Otherwise it would be a mess. Give it a month. Well, guys, I'm looking at 1:30. Anytime you're ready to go ahead, are you going to record this one?
This is it's being recorded and we're streaming to YouTube. I don't know if Jennifer's let's see if make sure Rob Circu is in the meeting. I had him in here. I admitted him, but now I see he's back in the attendee slot. And I want to make sure he's one of our panelists. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to promote Rob to panelist.
Hey, Travis, good to see you. on board?
Hey, Rob, are you with us? Can you hear me now? I think Rob's in here.
Hold on. Yeah, I'm in here. Sorry. I was trying to figure it out. It wouldn't let my camera come on. And then it kicked me out at one point and I came back in and I think I'm set.
We got you now. We can see you and hear you. You're all good.
Good.
I love Cindy's picture. It looks like she's actually there. I want to know who did that photo.
Right, that's a good one.
It was a selfie, Karen.
It is beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
It's about
All right,
1:31. I don't know, Jennifer, do you think we have a quorum or I don't know, a list of people?
I'll have to call the roll because we have a lot of people on this committee.
Yeah.
Okay, yep. All right. Well, it is 1:31. Why don't we go ahead and call the meeting to order of the Citizens Advisory Committee for TBARTA for August 2020. First item of business is the call to order and the roll call. Jennifer, you want to go through that?
Yes, sir. Bob Henyon. Bob Henyon.
Bob, you're muted. Bob, turn your microphone on.
I just unmuted him. Well, I can't unmute him for some reason. I see him there, but I cannot unmute his mic. I don't know why.
He's clearly present.
Did that do it?
Now he's in.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Bill Roberts.
Present.
Ryan Kazmierkowski. Bob Widmer.
Oh, I'm here.
Okay. Lynn Gruber White.
I'm here also.
Josh Frank.
I'm here.
Richard Bedford. Okay. Kelly Miller.
I'm here.
Travis Norton.
Present.
Leonardo DeSorts.
Here.
Bill Johnson.
Here.
Tyler Hudson. Rick Richmond.
Here.
Rob Serku.
Here.
Karen Mullins.
Here.
Walter O'Rourke. And Sarah Calhoun.
Here.
Okay, we do have a quorum. We can go ahead and
Did you hear me?
continue.
I'm here.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you, Kelly.
I didn't hear my name called.
Bill.
Mr. Goodwin,
David Goodwin.
Here.
Okay, perfect. Okay, we can go ahead and proceed.
okay, good. Thank you, everyone, for attending. This will be my first meeting chairing this committee, so I will try to keep to the agenda and try to keep us on something of a schedule, and I'll count on Chris Jedick to straighten me out if we veer too far afield of the scheduled business. Next item on the agenda is the public comment. Has anyone signed up or does anyone wish to speak under the public comment portion? Jennifer, do you?
Sorry, I was muted. This is Cindy Raskin, staff with TBARTA. I've had the public comment line open since 1:15, and there is nobody on the line at this time that wishes to make a general public comment.
Okay. Okay. Hearing no public comment and no one signed up, we'll close that portion of the meeting and we'll move into our consent agenda, which is consideration of the minutes of our meeting from June 17th, 2020. Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes as printed and distributed?
So moved.
Motion to accept.
Karen Mullis, who made the second?
Rob.
Second.
Rob Serku made the motion to second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair,
Aye.
I do have to take roll call now that we're in Zoom world.
Okay, we'll do a
Okay,
roll
so I
call
will go
for
ahead and
the-
do that.
Thank you. Jennifer, go ahead.
Okay, Bob Henyon,
Aye.
Bill Roberts,
Aye.
Bob Widmer,
Yes, they changed the spelling of Pizarro on the second page.
okay?
Did you get that?
Lynn, I did, yes.
Okay.
Lynn Gruber,
Aye.
Josh Frank,
Aye.
Kelly Miller,
Aye.
Travis Norton,
Aye.
Leonardo Desortis, Leonardo,
Aye.
Bill Johnson,
Aye.
David Goodwin,
Aye.
Rich Rickman,
Aye.
Rob Surku,
Aye. And if you say Sir Q, it's a little easier, like the
Sir
letter
Q.
Q at the end.
Q.
Yeah, there
Okay.
you go.
Thank you. Karen Mullins,
Karen, you're muted.
Karen Mullins,
Aye.
thank you. Sarah Calhoun,
Aye.
and did we have Tyler Hudson with us today as well?
I don't see him
Okay,
logged in.
all right, motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item 5 on our agenda is action items and presentations. We have no action items on the agenda today, so we'll move into presentations, which will be a media and communications presentation. Chris, I suspect that's going to be you.
That is going to be me, Bill. Appreciate that very much, and my honor to give the first presentation of your tenure. I hope it's
Thank
one of the highlights. Bill had asked me just to walk through how we handle communications and marketing at TBARTA, and I am the communications director, as you know, so happy to walk you through some of those things. And I think it's very important for everybody on the committee to know, because you may have a news item of sorts, you may get approached by the media, you may have something that you think needs to be communicated. So I'm always accessible and available for any questions you might have. So I'm going to walk you through some of the things that I do. As you know, we have a very nimble and talented staff, but smaller compared to other agencies. TBARTA consists of, I don't know, it's 11 or 12 full-time people. So as communications director, I really wear a lot of different hats. And I'm going to talk to you about 4 components today: internal and external communications, media relations, website management, and agency and project support. So starting with the first one, internal and external communications, it really starts right here with what we're doing right now with the Zoom meeting. So to give you an example, back in March, when the governor said you do not have to meet publicly to have a quorum, you can conduct these meetings electronically, we, just like every other entity, had to figure out how are we going to do that. And so it was my responsibility to pick the platform. It wasn't obvious that we'd do Zoom. We, checked out WebEx and Microsoft Teams. There's a lot of different platforms out there that you could go to. But it was my responsibility to make a recommendation on what the platform should be. And then more importantly and more difficultly is kind of figure out how to use it. Because it's one thing to get online and have a conversation with a group of people. It's another thing to conduct a public meeting and make sure that you adhere to all the public requirements. So I think we've done a pretty good job of doing that. I will tell you that like a lot of organizations, and I'm sure you've been on a lot of different meetings, different platforms, there are growing pains to all of that. But we did a lot of testing along the way. We had to figure out, how are we going to conduct meetings electronically and still allow public access, not just to watch, but also participate, but also keep up security measures so that those who are approved to be panelists, as you are, get to actively communicate and participate in the meeting. So Zoom is the way we went, as a lot of entities did. And I will tell you this, now that we've done it for a few months, it is becoming a little easier to do. I also oversee our YouTube channel. If you haven't been there, everything that's kind of posted, whether we internally produce it or it might be some media stories that we get, gets posted to our YouTube channel. This meeting is actually being live streamed to YouTube right now. and as are our meetings when we're out in public as well too. We work very closely with, most often it's PSTA and it's with HART. But to give you an example, last year when we were at the airport and we did our TBARTA board meeting out there, we had to figure out how are we going to capture this. So, going out and hiring a firm and getting somebody who can do the audio and video, because we don't have those internal resources, but that's something that I would help coordinate for those meetings. And then of course, I also put a snippet up here of our on the go weekly newsletter. That's also produced by myself. The newsletter is a combination of things. We certainly want to inform people what's happening with TBARTA, and that's usually the headline. Whenever there's a big TBARTA story, that will go off the top. But of course, we're not making big news every week. A lot of times there are other transit and transportation related stories in our area, and those will make the newsletter. So I try to keep it as timely and interesting as possible to our population. It certainly includes all our board members who are getting this newsletter. But we also have, I would say, the distribution is roughly about 2,300 people who have signed up for this and are receiving it, including state and local officials. So it's a great way to really keep the public informed on an ongoing basis what TBARTA is doing. Media relations. My background is in media, in television news to be exact. So while I'm a jack of all trades, I guess probably my core specialty has to do with dealing with the media, having worked as a news director at the ABC station here in town, and having worked, actually, I was oversaw the old Bright House Sports Network, if you remember that, before Spectrum took it over there. We did the high school games. So I know a lot of the media people in town, and they know me. And so when it comes to getting the story out, when TBARTA makes news, I do have a little bit of understanding as to what the media is looking for. And I also have some contacts that can be helpful in reaching out to the media and getting some publicity. So it starts with news releases. You can see one of the news releases there that we put out. We also post all these onto our website. But this happened last February when Commute Tampa Bay came out with its great new app, and we were relaunching under a new brand. So we put out a news release with that. And then you can see a snippet of just a couple of the stories that we've received. This is known as earned media. Earned media as opposed to paid media. Paid media is advertising. We certainly could tell people what we want to tell them by paying to get our story in print or on the air. But earned media is when you do something that's of interest that you get the media to cover it for you. And so it's very valuable in the strategic communications world. And you can see some snippets of a couple of the stories that we've had over the last, I'd say, roughly 15 months since I joined TBARTA in April of 2019. Most immediately, the Lilium presentation to the board last month got a lot of attention, as you expected it would. And that's the type of thing that I know the media is going to be interested in. One of my jobs is I don't reach out to the media every time we have something we want to say. To give you an example, the RTDP, obviously, very big project, but that doesn't get a lot of publicity because it is more of the wheels of government turning and its planning. But when you have an air taxi company come in and talk about possibly providing this new type of transit, that's a very interesting story to the media. So we had 6 television stations cover the Lilium story last month, all the major affiliates, plus Bay News 9, plus Telemundo, as well as the Tampa Bay Business Journal. And so my job as part of media relations is to reach out to the media, coordinate those stories with them, and I'll act as a TBARTA spokesperson. But my philosophy also is to certainly get David out in front of the camera as much as possible. Cindy, Brian, Christy, and Nuntis. I mean, all of us have been in the media because I think the more voices we have speaking out about TBARTA, the better it serves us. We've got a fair amount of coverage also on WFLA AM Tampa Bay with Jack Harris. Jack used to work for me when I was at the ABC News station as well, so we've got a good relationship there. So I think we're doing a good job of getting earned media and placing our stories in the news media across the area. I want to touch on website management a little bit. As you know, we revamped our website. It's coming up on about a year when we actually relaunched it. When I came here, the project to change the old website was already underway, but the design had not followed through. It's one thing to design a website, but it's really it's a living and breathing document. I would say what's on the website now, at least 2/3 of the content that's on the website now did not exist when we relaunched it. So you've got to have a CMS, a content management system that enables your staff to go in and make changes and update things. And the big screen you see right there is just sort of a snippet of one of the pages and shows you how I'm able to edit that. So what's really great about this system is that, we were able to add new tabs and new pages. For example, our innovative transit technology initiative. which was with the study, and then of course continues on with Lilium and other presentations. We were able to add pages and tabs to that as we do different task orders and different reports are issued. We're able to publish those on the site. So the website is a public facing billboard for TBARTA, but it's also a repository that should be very easy for anyone to access, whether it is you or a member of the public who wants to learn about TBARTA. They should be able to go there and quickly find what they're looking for. And the old website, it had been dated. It was 10 years, and it really had a lot of things in it that were dated. But we're trying to keep it up to date now. And you can see from the tabs at the top of the website, hopefully you've had a chance to use it yourself. It's organized into Commute Tampa Bay, planning and projects, our boards and committees. You don't want to put too many tabs up there. Each one of those, if you hover your mouse over one of those tabs, there'll be a sub menu that allows you to go into other pages as well too. So if you haven't had a chance to check out the website, I really encourage you to do that. It's been a very valuable tool for us. And it's a big part of what I do just to keep it updated. And then I do want to take a minute just to talk a little bit about project support. So this really involves a lot of different things. You can see the Envision 2030 table there. That was from Tampa's Train Day last May when I first came on board. Working with our partners, WSP and Tyndale Oliver really worked a lot on those projects as well as RT. So if it's a public event that I need to go out to, or perhaps speak at a chamber event, as I did with Amplify Clearwater earlier this week, that's part of what I'll do to support our projects and spread the word. You see that picture of John Wilson there in the middle. That's a snippet from the video that we produced in support of the RTDP. And we're using that video to really explain what Envision 2030 is and justify what the need is for TBARTA. So, communication and spreading the word, and I say this is kind of like hand-to-hand combat. We certainly need champions, and we need support at a high level. The state legislature, our local officials, our county commissions, our transit agencies, all of those people we work with day in, day out, we need to be working very closely with. But I think it's also important that people have a good understanding of what TBARTA is. It's very easy to confuse us with HART or another transit agency. And so to understand that there's this regional entity that's working to improve transit in our area in ways that perhaps our local transit agencies can't do because they're busy, quite frankly, serving their local constituents. But how TBARTA is trying to connect us regionally, that's one of the things I'm certainly trying to do. The Caring Commutes, that was a project that Cindy launched earlier this year, in which we had a promotion to get people to sign up to use our app. And when we reached a certain goal, I think we donated like $2,500 to Feeding Tampa Bay. That was really a great initiative. And so I helped with the publicity with that, as Cindy helped with the execution of the program. And then you can see Foundations for the Future. This is our TBARTA annual report. If you want a physical copy of the annual report, I am happy to provide it because we have a couple of boxes of them. We printed them in January. And then, of course, we immediately had the COVID situation. We've had no place in public to go and distribute them. The annual report is all online, so you don't need a physical copy. But we do envision that we'd be going out in public, and when people are someplace, if they want to have a takeaway material, or if David is up talking to the state legislature, or perhaps you are talking to somebody and you say, look, I'm trying to represent TBARTA. I need some marketing material. I'd like to be able to talk about what TBARTA is, and where I could really use some of those annual reports. What the annual report does is it captures everything that we did in 2019, and there was a lot. And we'll do the same thing in 2020. Toward the end of the year, probably in November, December, I'll really start trying to organize all of that. The idea being that we can work with a graphic designer, come at the end of December, and then by January, we can publish something that captures all of 2020. It'll probably have a different title. We use the title Foundations for the Future because that's what we felt 2019 was. As you know, a lot of staff joined TBARTA in 2019. David really was his first full year. We put a lot of things in place. So what will the title be for 2020? We certainly are starting to execute. I don't know, but those are the types of things we're trying to do to spread the word about what TBARTA does. My contact information is on the website, so you don't need to copy it down, but I'll just put it up here really quickly. If you have any, and certainly I'm open for questions after this. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer all of those. But if you ever have anything you want to talk to me about, or let's say you get a contact from the media and you don't know, maybe you want to comment, or maybe you think, well, you know what, David Green should comment. Well, how should we handle this? I hope you feel free to reach out to me and let me know. Happy to help you with all of that. And with that, Bill, I'm going to turn it back to you. If there's anything I can provide, please let me know.
Good. Thank you, Chris. I hope that was helpful and informative. And you mentioned the regular newsletter. I'd like to encourage our committee members, if they have events or activities that are happening in their communities, in their counties, that they think is noteworthy on a regional basis, reach out to Chris, let him know. It may be something he wants to include in something he's putting out in one form or another. Just one more way for this committee to have input to not just the staff, but also to their respective communities. Are there any questions of Chris about his presentation, his duties or opportunities we may have?
Just a comment, Bob Woodmar.
Bob, you're recognized.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Chris, thank you very much. I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Among other things, I have the pleasure of being on a WebEx conference, and it does not compare to this. So kudos to you.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. Yeah, we had to sort of just jump into the water. I didn't know. I'll tell you what, I'd never used Zoom until we had to pick one of these platforms. One of the things that would impress me about Zoom was the audio capability. You know, in a lot of different platforms, there's feedback, and there can be feedback with Zoom if you have your phone open at the same time. But somehow their audio technology, if you're just open, you rarely have any feedback issues. And so audio is one of the biggest things that made us kind of lean towards Zoom a little bit. So I'm glad it's working out for you. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments of Chris or about our external communications in general?
I see Bill Johnson has a question.
Bill?
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris, I had the chance to see the presentation you made to Amplify Clearwater, the Clearwater Chamber, and the presentation that had John Wilson in it. The sound came out pretty well, but the picture was kind of jerky. And perhaps that's because they were not using Zoom, or is that, what kind of a product is that?
They're using, what is the name? Remo, I think they're calling it. And I understand it's been developed by somebody in Pinellas County. I'll tell you, it's impressive for the conference rooms. On one hand, it's, you know, you get to another, oh, this is a new platform I've got to use. But the way you can move from room to room, and I can see that's why Amplify Clearwater embraced it. But when it comes to the video, and I will tell you, before, you may remember in some of our earlier meetings, we had RRT videos and things like that. I can't speak to what that platform is. Our video plays fine. If you go to YouTube, you'll see a great rendition of the video, and that's the exact same one. The issue always is the platform it's on and how robust the technology is behind the scenes. And this is not to fault Amplify Clearwater. I actually, on Zoom, it's very interesting. When we were first going to play our RRT video a couple of months ago, I would play it and people said, yeah, I can only see like 1 frame a second. What is it? And I had to kind of dig into the details and find out there was actually a optimized video setting, and it was a little trial and error. I learned a little bit about how to make the videos play a little better on our platform, because that's exactly one of my concerns. And you always hear people talk about bandwidth. How much bandwidth do you have? So I don't know anything about the platform that Amplify Clearwater was using for videos. It does some things really well. Some other things I noticed it was a little different with. And I'd heard that feedback too, was that it seemed like the audio lagged a little bit. Unfortunately, that was not on my end where I was playing it here. But that's something in the future. If I had to put a video on with them again for the first time, I'd say, hey, can we test the video a little bit more and see how it works? Because it's interesting. I tested it with their coordinator. I forget her name. And she said, yeah, the video plays. I can see it. Now, whether we didn't watch the whole thing. We watched a few seconds of it. It seemed to play and work. But that's generally what it is. It's the platform on the end of the person who's hosting the meeting. Probably a longer answer than you wanted.
The other question I had is, how do you get to your YouTube channel?
I'll tell you, if you go to YouTube and just if you go to YouTube and put TBARTA, or if you go to Google and put YouTube TBARTA, it should come right up. That should be almost the first thing you see. I would expect that hopefully would come up for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Bill. Any other questions or comments about Chris's presentation? I cannot see
Yes,
that. Go ahead,
I
Karen.
just want to comment on his last statement. TBARTA doesn't come up, but if you type in Tampa Bay regional area, whatever it is, the long name, it'll come up, but TBARTA won't bring it up in YouTube.
Okay, good to know.
And I may be able to add that. I'll take a look. I appreciate that, Karen. I'm going to take a look at that and see. It might be that if TBARTA is not in our title, that might be part of it. You know, if I spelled out Tampa Bay Area Regional Transit Authority. So let me take a look at that. It comes up on mine just because I'm in it all the time and it knows it's where I want to go.
Hey, it's Cindy. You could also, if you go to tbarta.com and scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a little YouTube icon you could click on as well.
And one other thing, Bill, before we go, and Cindy reminded me of this, I really didn't touch on the social media. You know, social media is a very big part of what we're doing. We do have channels on, certainly I mentioned YouTube, but we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter. It's the type of thing that if you had something, you almost could devote a staff of people to be messaging every day on social media. And that's the way it's most effective if you've really in it, especially Twitter. But I think we do a pretty good job. And so we do put tweets out, but we're not tweeting 50 times a day because quite frankly, I don't think that there's a reason for that. We do use Facebook a fair amount. We've actually done some Facebook advertising. That's one of the platforms we consider. I think that's increasingly important on any campaigns. And LinkedIn as well too. And Cindy works hand in hand with me as, you know, having overseen communications at PSTA before she joined us. She's got great expertise in that too. So between the two of us, we try to keep the social media fires burning, but I didn't want to ignore that because increasingly people are using social media to get their messaging, and that's an important part of TBARTA.
Good, glad you mentioned it. Probably most of our committee members either have or will become friends of TBARTA on Facebook. That'll help them stay plugged in. Any other questions or comments of Chris? That was a great report, very, very interesting. I hope it was informative to all the committee. Under the new business and committee discussion, we have a couple of items on the agenda. The first is I wanted just to raise the issue with the committee about our meeting day and time. Obviously, this is a non-traditional meeting setting. We've been meeting at 1:30 in the afternoon on Wednesdays for many years. Seems to have worked out pretty well, but I thought I'd see if there's any feedback from the committee members, either for Zoom meetings or once we begin meeting in person, which hopefully won't be too much longer. If this meeting time still works for everyone, or if anyone has a suggestion for an alternative. I've discussed this with some of the staff, and they're certainly willing to accommodate anything that's reasonable we might want to do. Any comments or suggestions about the meeting day and time? Nope. Okay, seeing none. I can't see if hands are raised, so I'm just going by nodding of heads. Bill Henry. Bill Henry, go ahead.
Okay. I'm fine with the way it is. We might want to wait till after we stabilize what our regular meeting schedule is when we go back to in person before we address that.
Okay. I think that makes sense. I'm gathering from the lack of comment that as far as we're on Zoom, this time and day seems to be working for everyone. I think we're kind of used to it and it's plugged into our calendar. So we'll continue with that process. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I think it's a great opportunity to use Zoom to avoid having to drive so far to some of our meetings. So we may actually have some more people participating, even though that's not, we don't have the choice to stay with Zoom in the future, but it's great. It's a great commute.
Yep, certainly is, Bill. Thank you. Could I interpret that comment to mean that you might be in favor of having hybrid meetings where we are both Zoom and in person once we get back to having that capability?
I'd like to be flexible and creative.
Okay, good.
I
Thank you.
concur.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, good. Thanks for that input. Our next item is board updates, and I'm not sure if Chris is going to drive the board update from the staff or who's going to run.
Well, I
this
have,
board.
yeah, Chris, thank you, Chair. Christina, to TBARTA staff. I've just got a couple items. One is an update, and the other one is something that's going to the board. I'll just go with the update first. Many of you may know that we have partnered with USERV to provide regional trips to the transportation disadvantaged. We've been giving presentations just to inform the MPOs, local coordinating boards. We just did a presentation to Hernando local coordinating board today and had some great feedback from them. We should know sometime next week if the grant was approved by the CTD staff. They're reviewing the applications. And we're looking forward to providing this. I think it's very important transportation for people that absolutely need it, and something that isn't there yet. We don't know what the demand is going to be. It's something we're going to learn over time, what the demand is going to be. And so I just wanted to update you on that one, and I can stop there and just see if you have any questions about that one.
Any questions about the update from Chris?
Who is the contractor?
The contractor is called USERV. They are a TNC, similar to a Uber or a Lyft. So in the first quarter of this project, they will have a mobile app available for customers, the transportation disadvantaged customers that will have an app on their phone that they can request on-demand service door to door. So that's pretty exciting as well. It's right now, they'll have to make an appointment at least 24 hours in advance, but within the first quarter, we'll have that app hopefully up and running, and it'll be able to provide, another benefit.
Yeah, Bill, I have a comment.
Whitmer, go ahead.
Chris, I think this is excellent. After Brian gave the CARES talk at our last meeting, I approached the Hernando Disadvantaged Committee, and actually in their service plan, in 2 places, they note that inter-county is not only a requirement, but a big need. And I believe somebody from TBARTA is there today actually talking with that staff. So this is great to see this go forward.
Yeah, I think that was us. That was a 10 o'clock meeting today.
I'm not sure of the time, but yeah.
We it was Steve Holmes from USERV, myself, and Chris Jaddock were at that meeting, and gave a brief presentation, but they were very positive about it. So, like I said, we're excited to do it.
Fantastic.
Chris, it might be helpful for the committee if you just identify the areas of proposed service and the hours, and just a quick overview of what that contract may entail.
Yeah, well, the contract would entail all the 5 counties that TBARTA serves. We don't know the exact hours at the moment, but we're open to weekends as well, because there are some local CTCs that don't provide weekend service, and we'll have the capacity to pick up the slack for those folks. I don't have the hours in front of me right now, but I at a later meeting, I can give you the hours of service. But it's not just for medical trips. It's for any trips that meet TD service trips. So work trips, medical trips, social trips, all those types of trips will be provided.
Good. Thank you.
Is that wheelchair accessible?
Yes, so the ambulatory and non-ambulatory service will be provided.
Chris, Chris Janik?
Yes.
No. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Chris. I thought you might have a question.
Oh, no, not me.
Okay. Anyone else have a question about this presentation by Chris? Okay. Did you have something further, Chris?
Yes, one other item will be going to the board this Friday. It's a resolution of support for Manatee County Area Transit and their service development grant to make service improvements or frequency improvements to the Route 99. And for those of you that aren't familiar with MCAT service, the Route 99 serves from downtown Bradenton to downtown Sarasota along US 41. It serves the Sarasota Airport. It serves some of the colleges along US 41, as well as all the multifamily and commercial along 41. This grant's being submitted or was submitted to the FDOT district office. The grant is for operating funds in the amount of $1.5 million to improve frequencies. Currently, Route 99 provides 30-minute service all day. This will be to improve it to 20 minutes during the peak, so the morning peak and the evening peak. This service is a top priority in MCAT's adopted TDP. It is also a top priority in the recently adopted TBARTA's recently adopted Envision 2030. It's in the Manatee Sarasota MPO LRTP, and there are funds already available for the 4 additional buses that they'll be needed for the project.
Good. Questions of Chris about the Manatee project. That'll be a resolution, I think, going before the TBARTA board this Friday, the board meeting.
Correct.
Okay, good. Karen Mullins, we recognized.
Yes. How are they handling the operations and maintenance of that additional time out there?
Well, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure the question, but they, within their current operations, they would, I think they may have to hire 4 additional bus drivers, but that's what the operating costs, the additional 1.5 over the 3 years is for the bus operators. But the vehicles are in place.
That's a separate issue. Yeah.
Yeah, the funding is
Totally
in place for them.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Bob Henyon?
No, I don't.
Okay. Any other questions? And I think Chris mentioned it, but I think it's important for this committee to note that this is a proposed 3-year contract. So it, as we discussed in one of our previous meetings, these types of projects are important if they have continuity and longevity. So I think being a 3-year contract, it's something we can support. I'm hopeful that the TBARTA board approves the resolution of support for that grant. Any other questions of Chris about any of his reports? Okay, seeing none. I'm sorry, Brian.
Yeah, actually, I just had a quick update I wanted to give. Chris J, could you pull up that one slide?
See now?
This is not a presentation. I just wanted to give you an update. At the last meeting, one of the committee members, I think it was Tyler, had requested information on the RRT ridership broken down by route. And I just want to let you know, I do have those numbers now. At the next meeting, I will come back and present those to you. We didn't get it in time to put it in the agenda packet, but I do have those numbers. We didn't forget about you. I can tell you that the order of magnitude of the ridership, the greatest source of the ridership was from Wesley Chapel to downtown Tampa. Second largest source of ridership was North Tampa to West Shore. And then the third was from St. Pete to Tampa. But I will, at the next meeting, I will come back with you with some additional slides that give you a more detailed breakdown of the ridership. So I just want to just pass that on to let you know we haven't forgotten about this topic.
Good. Thank you, Chris. Any other comments or questions on the board updates or anything for the staff? Bill Johnson?
Yeah, thanks. In just looking at what we've been doing and what's ahead of us, I wonder how we're going to find the local match for the Regional Rapid Transit project. And I guess I'd like to be able to answer that question if people ask me about that. I know there's been some talk about having the counties kick in money, but have I missed that, or is that something that maybe we could spend some time trying to understand in the future?
Good question, Bill. I certainly do not know the answer. If I heard it, I don't remember it. Chris Jadek, you want to try to weigh in on that one?
I'd probably defer to Brian, who's the project manager on that.
Yeah, and I would say like the short answer is we don't have an answer. I mean, that's really the $1 million question. Where's the local match going to come from? Typically with projects like this, the local match comes from the counties, but we are exploring some other options. Is when we concluded the Envision 2030 plan, that one of the conclusions was we have to talk about next steps. Where does TBARTA go from here? And that is one of the things that we're starting to brainstorm and strategize on, how are we going to come up with a steady stream of funding just for TBARTA operations? And how are we going to come up with a local source of match for projects? One of the ideas that we've are kicking around is trying to see if we can get the statutes changed, because right now in state statute, FDOT is allowed to fund up to 100% of the operational cost of intercity commuter rail for up to 7 years. That's how Sunrail got funded. But the way the statute is currently written, it's only allowed for intercity commuter rail. One of the ideas we're going to see if we can get regional support for is to get that statute changed from saying intercity commuter rail to fixed guideway transit, which would then include, that would make a project like the RRT eligible. And that would mean that would take the counties off of the hook at least for 7 years. And that would mean that the state would be able to provide funding for the operations. Whether or not that will happen, I don't know, but that's the best that I can answer that's the best way I can answer your question right now.
Okay. And Brian, have we, refresh my memory, have we quantified what that cost would be for all of the local match?
On the capital side, yes, I don't know what the number is off the top of my head, but in terms of the capital costs, we do know what the total capital costs are, and therefore, what the local percentage would be. Yes.
Okay. And the same is true for operating expenses.
Yeah.
Okay, depending on the timing and who picks up how much. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions or comments at this point? Yes, Karen Mullis.
I was just going to ask, are we going to do basically, if we build it, they will come kind of philosophy? Are we just going to piecemeal this? How are we doing this?
Brian, you want to feel that one?
Yeah, well, we always have to remember that the RRT project is tied to the phasing of TB Next. So it probably will have to be phased in over time. It's not going to be, the 41-mile route will not be there all at once on one grand opening day. There may be, it may be that the Pasco to downtown Tampa segment opens up first. But we'll just have to see. It's all tied to TB Next.
Karen, did that answer your question as best you can? Okay. Other questions, comments? I'll leave that floor open, but I asked the staff to put an item on the agenda, which is our next item called members' interest. I'd like to propose that at each meeting, we give our committee members an opportunity to bring up topics that they would like to see on future agendas. Not necessarily new business at that meeting, but something that they'd like to take a look at in order to fuel that pump, prime the pump a little bit. Let me suggest 3 that we might want to look at as a committee. One, of course, would be what is our legislative program? What is going to be the legislative ask for the coming legislative session? Those are important issues that affect TBARTA in a number of different ways. Brian has already alluded to 2 of them here today. Secondly, we've recently had some renewed interest in the Cross Bay Ferry and the capital as well as the operating costs. It might be of interest to this committee to have an update on the status of the ferry project on a fairly regular basis. I'm thinking this is a long-term project. Its funding status is still up in the air, but if this is something that's of interest to the committee, it certainly is a transit issue of regional significance. So I wanted to propose it as a possibility. And then my third suggestion is also tied into something that Brian said a few minutes ago, and that is HART has recently commissioned a feasibility study of the use of the CXX railroad tracks and the railroad right-of-way. They didn't specify an area, but this will probably be an update of several studies that have previously been done. And of course, one of the segments of the CSX railway line does run from the USF area and probably from Wesley Chapel north of that into downtown Tampa with a cross bay leg that runs across through Oldsmar. So HART has, the HART board voted just last week to commission an update of the feasibility study of negotiations with CSX. That has gone to their staff. And if that's a subject of interest to this committee, I'd be happy to request that we get regular, not necessarily monthly updates on that project. So those are my 3 suggestions. If any of those are of interest to the committee, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Or if you have other projects of regional interest, this would be a good time at this meeting or at future meetings to speak up and bring them to our attention. With that, I'll open the floor.
Bill, this is Kelly.
Yes, Kelly.
Yes, I very much would like to hear updates on the CSX coming in, especially since I sat on the 54-56 task force in Pasco, where we talked at one point about that intersection of 41 and SR 54. You know, if we were going to do elevated, if it was going to be at grade, all kinds of continuous flow. You know, we spent probably 2 years in discussion over this and still haven't gotten anywhere. And I feel like CSX could play a very big role in that coming to fruition. So I am in all favor of any CSX updates.
Okay. And Kelly, let me ask if, because that intersection, although local in nature, is regional in its impact, maybe you or Rob Cirque would like to come back at our next meeting and kind of tell us where that project is, because that would be of interest to me and it might be to others on the committee. Would one of you be willing to do that?
Sure. Let me get with the MPO. We just had a meeting last week and see what we can get, any updated information. Either of us, I'm sure, will be glad to bring something next month.
Okay, good. Thank you. Other comments under members' interest on
Yeah,
my
Mr.
suggestions or others? Yes.
Yeah, Bob Woodmar. That
Bob
CSX project is always of interest to Hernando County. And we don't get to do the first part of it. So anything that starts means that possibilities of PPP or some kind of project to bring it from its northern terminus up to the city of Brooksville.
Thank you, Bob. And I would appreciate any feedback from Hernando County about how interested and what impact that might have on that community. Bob Henyon.
I'm not sure exactly how to approach this, but it's the issue of the continued membership and participation of Manatee County. I know Janet Long on our board keeps bringing it up and is rather ominous about her tone about whether they're going to continue their participation in TBARTA. And without them, we don't have a complete link around the whole county, our whole bay really, let alone the extremities. Would it be possible for the staff to keep us appraised of how conditions are going with that? I know I haven't really noticed Reggie Bellamy being at all the meetings of the board lately, and he's their representative. So I'm really not sure how secure they are in participating in this. And we really need them to be part of this overall region.
I agree. Christiane?
Yeah, just a quick comment on that. There was a very good meeting at the Manatee Board of County Commissioners just within the last week or two. And one of the things they talked about was what's the value TBARTA is bringing. But Bill Steele gave us a really good recommendation because of some of the things that we're working on, which includes consideration of the RRT extension down to Manatee County, the Route 99 endorsement project, which Christy and Untis talked about earlier here. Those are things that are high on their list. So it was a good conversation because the commissioner said, look, we need to see what the value is. I would tell you that certainly, while that's an ongoing concern and I wouldn't consider anything totally resolved, I would say I think we're addressing a lot of those needs. We're cognizant of those. We're moving in that direction. So I just want to provide a brief comment on that because a lot of that really was on the table when we talked to county commissioners when we did the RTDP briefing recently.
That's great because I really was concerned that they were sort of drifting off.
Yeah, and I would also say, I mean, Commissioner Bellamy has been, I think, to most of the meetings there. I think the last one he did not. He was expecting to, and then was not able to. I remember he was not present for that one in particular. But I know he's been present, and he's also been very clear in saying, look, I need to be able to show value for what TBARTA is providing here too. So he's been leading that, but he's also very open to working with us and trying to find that understanding and sort of building that bridge. And then it's up to us to kind of cross that bridge and show what we have. And I think we're starting to do that.
Sounds great.
Good. Thank you, Chris. And
I do see Dave Goodwin has his hand raised, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, who does?
Dave Goodwin.
Dave, you're recognized.
Thank you. I support your notion that we would get a regular update on the Cross Bay Ferry. It seems to be doing well, but its existence also seems to be pretty tenuous in terms of long-term support and operation of that. So, and particularly with the investments the city has made down at the pier and an accommodation for that ferry, I think keenly interested in that going forward.
Good. Thank you.
Cindy Raskin is asking for recognition as well as Karen Mullins.
Cindy, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to go back to the Manatee item that you were speaking about just one moment ago. We have also been working with Annie Arguello, who is the commuter services manager for the contractor that has the agreement with FDOT in District 1, which includes Manatee County. So our commuter services program doesn't cover Manatee. However, we know that Manatee is part of the Tampa Bay area, and there is that sensitivity about them being part of TBARTA. So I've been working closely with Paul Simmons and Michelle, her last name I can't pronounce and I'll kill it, at FDOT in District 1 to put together an opportunity for us to work together with their provider to help support their commuter services. So We'll be working together in Manatee County. They'll be seeing our TBARTA staff for commuter services as well as the contractor down there. And until such time as they contract their own van pool provider, we are going to use our commuter assistance program funding to help subsidize, offer the same subsidy that we offer to our clients to those in Manatee. So I didn't get a chance to watch David's presentation. I don't know how much of that Manatee partnership he mentioned, but that is a pretty big piece that we're able to do right now to help support and show value for how TBARTA is working together with Manatee County. So I want to share that.
Good. And I would add that Manatee needs to continue being a part of TBARTA for a number of transportation issues, not the least of which is the fact that the Board of County Commissioners there also is the board for the Port of Manatee, an important economic engine in our region. Someone else had their hand up. Who was that?
Karen Mullins.
Karen Mullins.
Yeah, I want to thank Cindy for reaching out. I like that idea, as long as we can keep the communications open. My next thought is, who do we have on this board from Manatee County? I can't access, my computer's like not happy with Zoom right now, so I can't access that. But do we have somebody who's actually participating in the CAC?
We do have someone. I know he's one of the executives at Lakewood Ranch Development, but I haven't seen him in a while.
Jennifer?
Oh, yeah. So we do have Sarah Calhoun from the Sarasota Manatee MPO. And then Richard Bedford from Manatee County.
Yeah, Richard Bedford was the one I was thinking of.
Neither of whom are with us today, so we hopefully.
Sarah
Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah's here. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm with the Manatee Sarasota MPO CAC. So
thank you.
I'm a Manatee County representative, but at the CAC level.
Good. Well, we'd certainly welcome any input or comments from you, feedback you may have from Manatee County at any of these meetings.
Okay.
Any other comments?
At one point, Mr. Chair, I don't know if Rick Richmond was trying to had a comment or not. I wasn't sure if you were waving your hand, Rick, or not. I believe he is.
I was. Thank you, Chris. No, I just wanted to say, Bill, great, and the other suggestions. This kind of starts us off to kind of discuss a lot of interesting ideas and information. And one thing I wanted to go back with was what Bill was suggesting is really starting to talk about the funding and the local match. I think it's an important discussion and conversation to have just from an awareness, particularly because we all serve on the MPOs who are also going to be, that's where some of the funding comes from our other projects. So just for a greater awareness for everybody, maybe just, I don't want to say a workshop, but just refresh our memories on some of the, as the local match and the funding becomes available as the project progresses, that we're made aware of these and what options you all are looking at for funding. So appreciate that. It was a good discussion.
Thank you, Rick. Other comments? Any other hand raised that I don't see?
Do you see Karen's hand?
Karen.
Yeah, I want to go back to the legislative session. I'd like to get a report on what we're planning on asking, or the TBARTA board is asking the legislature this year. If we could get, is there anything on their plate right now that we're aware of?
Karen, I appreciate that comment. Along those lines, I did have a brief conversation last week with TBARTA's lobbyist. The report I can provide is only that they're developing the plan. They're waiting to see what happens with the elections and to develop what I call a champion for TBARTA at the legislative level. If it be the desire of this committee, I would like to invite the TBARTA lobbyist to make a presentation from time to time, not necessarily every month, but from time to time to keep us advised so that we can carry that message back to our local communities and enlist support at the local and state level for TBARTA. Any thoughts on that? Anybody in favor or anybody opposed?
Rob Cirque is giving a thumbs up. And by the way, Rob Cirque and Lynn Gruber White are also asking for recognition.
Okay. Rob, you're recognized. You want to turn your microphone on.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say, I think that the addition of those items are a great addition to the agenda of, whether it's the ferry, whether it's the legislative session, all the different things I've talked about. I think it's great to kind of work those in and give us, especially for somebody newer to the board. I can appreciate some of those projects that have been around a while, getting, regular updates on them.
Thanks, Rob. Lynn, you recognized?
Yes, thank you. I think that it's absolutely critical that this committee get updates from the legislative committee. We're supposed to be the voice of the people, the voice of the citizens, and getting those updates from the legislative committee, lobbyists, we can have input into that from, the boots on the ground usership.
Thank you. And I think that's a two-way street, Lynn. I think you would agree that not only is it helpful and probably important for us to know what the message is and what the legislative ask is, but also to provide feedback from our communities as to what impact TBARTA can or is having in each local community. So I would hope that future meetings will include that kind of feedback from our representatives.
That was very well said, sir.
Thank you. Chris, anybody else have their hand up?
I do not see anyone at this point.
Okay. Is there any other new business to come before the Citizens Advisory Committee? The remaining item on our agenda is items to take to the TBARTA board. There is a board meeting this Friday. I'll give a brief report, but I'm not aware of any specific action items or requests that need to come from this committee, but I'm open to hearing any. Nope. Bob Whitmer, you've been mighty quiet today. All right. Well, again, I want to thank you for electing me to this office. We'll try to keep these meetings productive and timely. I want to thank Bill Johnson again for the terrific job he's done the past 2 years. He's been a great chairman. We've gotten a lot done. TBARTA is, I think, on the right trajectory, and hopefully this committee will continue to have good input. So Bill, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Happy to do it.
Hey, Bill.
Yes, Karen.
I want to say thank you for taking over. You've done a really wonderful job. Everything ran really smoothly. I'd like to ask, does anybody know about the next TMA meeting? Does anybody have any information on that?
The September 18th TMA?
Yeah.
I know that TBARTA and USERV will be giving a presentation on the regional TD service. That much I do know.
Okay, so it's in September. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I believe it's 9:30 to 11:30 is the time, but I'm not, I know it starts at 9:30. It may only go till 10:30, I'm not positive. So it's on a Friday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. Thank you, Karen. That's an important and powerful group. So I encourage any of you who have the time and the interest to tune into those meetings. Any other business to come before the committee today? Seeing none, I thank you all for your time and your interest in serving on this committee. The meeting is adjourned.
Excellent
Thanks,
job.
Bill. Great job, bud.
Thank you, Bill. Great
Thanks,
job.
everyone.
Good job, Bill.
Everybody.
Safe, everybody.
See you in October.
Bye.